Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5, entitled Feel Her Love. This is a HBO original, also on HBO Max, based off of the popular video game of the same name. And episode 5 of this TV show picks up right after episode 4, where we left off with Ellie being bitten by an infected in order to save Dana when they escaped that subway system, only for Dana to flip out and about to kill Ellie until Ellie finally confessed to her that she is immune to the Cordyceps virus, and did the reveal. And she also had a secret of her own, her being Dana, that she is indeed with child. She is pregnant, and the two consummated their love, and so on and so forth. So that's where we left off last episode, where they intercepted a radio transmission that says that one of the assailants that was comparable in the death of Joel was held up in this hospital on the other side of Seattle. So they have to kind of map out a plan in order to get to the hospital to question Nora, is the character's name, that they are going to interrogate to find out where is Abby. And so this episode, coming off of last episode, which I thoroughly enjoyed, I had high hopes for this episode, and I was kind of disappointed. Not disappointed in the sense where it was a bad episode, because a lot of good stuff came out of this episode, but it just didn't have the adrenaline that I was hoping it would have. Not so much as action or anything of that nature, but just, I don't know, it just felt kind of stagnant. It started off pretty slow, because when we left off in episode 4, it looks like they were about to grab their packs and go begin on this journey, and we picked up immediately at the start of this episode, and I'm about to call her Bella, but that's her real name, Bella Ramsey. But Ellie and Dana are just, mapping out this plan to go to the hospital. And I get it, but it just slowed up things. But before we got to that scene, the cold open to this episode, it was a bombshell in my eyes, because they introduced something that is very important in the lore of the games that the show did not exploit, didn't have in the show, and they kept it kind of grounded in that sense, and that is the spores. We got introduced to the spores in this episode, and for that reason alone, this was a big episode, because in the game, that is a major part of the story. You get to these certain stages in the game where you gotta go through a building or a house or whatever, and there's spores, so you have to get your gas mask, put your mask on, and go through, unless you're playing as Ellie, who's immune to it all, and you can just go through it. But if you're playing as Joel or another character, you have to put on your mask in order to get through these stages, or you will be infected. And it's a big part of the game. I didn't miss it, throughout this series in season 1 and halfway through this season. I didn't miss it, but I kind of wish that would play a role in some shape, form, or fashion. And I didn't expect them to introduce it or include it in the show. So when it happened here, I was like, okay, well, they're amping it up another level, and the show kind of needs that, after the untimely demise of Joel. Even though if you played the game, you knew it was coming, but it still packed a wallop of a punch. But the show is kind of, it's been on shaky ground. It hasn't lost its quality, but it is still missing a little something with the departure of Joel and Pedro Pascal as that character. But thankfully, next episode we're getting a flashback episode, and we're going to get to see Pedro Pascal as Joel with Ellie, because it seems like this is a episode. Well, I'm talking about next episode. That's going to be a episode straight out of the game when Joel and Ellie goes to this old, I guess you could say museum where they have the spaceships and whatnot. And I remember that stage of the game and in part two. But we'll get to that next week. But this episode, it was good. It just didn't have the same pop. We got a scene, as I mentioned in the beginning, where this WLF, I guess you could say lieutenant or sergeant, whatever she is, however they rank them over there with the wolves, is explaining to Harahan this discovery of the spores that one of the soldiers radioed in to this officer. I think her name is Elise. Radioed in to seal them in. They're being they're infected. Even though they weren't bit, and that it was the discovery of the spores. And to come to find out that officer was the son of Elise. When Harahan turns and tells her, like, I'm sorry for the loss of your son. I'm sorry about that. That was just devastating. I'm like, man, that was a son. And think about that. It really made you think. It's good that was the cold open, and after that scene ended, it went into the opening credit sequence, because you had to let that sit for a second, because all that's playing through my mind, like, what would I do in that situation? Would I lock my daughters in this section of a building that was exposed, or would I go in there and try to get them? That's my kids. But the overall thing, the ultimate sacrifice of it all, that is a choice that I pray to God I never have to make. And she made it, and she sealed them all in, essentially sealing their doom. And that's heartbreaking. And so we pick up after the opening credit sequence with Ellie and Dana. They're triangulating the radio conversations, and I liked that aspect of it, even though I felt it was moving kind of slow for my blood. But I liked that they showed the intelligence of Dana and showed how smart she is. You already kind of knew that, leading up to this, ever since they introduced her character on the show and in the game. But she just has a level of intelligence that's essential to Ellie, because at this point, you can honestly say that Ellie probably would be dead at this at this point if it wasn't for Dana and her intelligence and how she maps out things, how she comes up with. She's just a strategist. I'll put it that way. And saying that, okay, we need to stop and rest instead of keep going. We can't just barge into this. We have to stop and come up with a plan for this, or we have to do that. She's the voice of reason, even though they both have the same goal, and that is to find Abby and kill her for what they did to Joel. But she wants to, she being Dana, wants to be smart about it, whereas Ellie is more of a Joel. Joel doesn't care. Joel would just go in guns a-blazing, and that's who Ellie is. That's who she emulates. And so it's good to see that scene play out, to show her intelligence and whatnot. After that, they get the ball rolling. They hit the road, and we get another heartbreaking story from Dana. Dana, after Ellie has, like, what am I doing? After they discovered the bodies of those scars that the wolves have killed, murdered on the street, I guess in a little firing squad type situation. And it is like reality set in for Ellie. Like, man, what am I doing? I have this, you can't come with me. You're pregnant. I can't have you here. Like, you can't go out. You could die. and Dana is like, no, Dana's in a situation whereas she loved Joel just as much as Ellie did, and she wants vengeance just as much as Ellie did for a number of reasons. One, that she was there. You know what I'm saying? She was there, and nothing she could do. She was helpless in the situation. And then there's the added factor of she loves Ellie. She wants to protect Ellie. She wants to make sure Ellie returns safely, and so they can raise this child together. And so there's that element as well. And so she's kind of stuck. But she tells the story of her mother and her sister, and how she wasn't around to save them. She came too late, and she shot the guy that beat them to death, but it didn't kill him. And the guy ended up killing her mom and her sister while she watched. Now, granted, she was 8 years old at the time, and she had to suffer through that, but she did eventually kill him. And she told Ellie, like, look, if he would have got away, I would have hunted him forever. I never would have stopped. And that's basically the same thing that they're doing now. There is no stopping. This is something that has to happen. But she did tell Ellie that, if you want me to go, I'll go. But I'm telling you, I'm going on my own accord. I'm staying with you on my own accord. If anything happens to me, that's on me. It has nothing to do with you. That's not your burden to bear. And I thought that was a nice scene, right there in the middle. Just then they're discovered. They're running away from the wolves who's on a patrol. I think that's where that scene happened. But anyways, they get into the building, and then they find the infected. There are infected in this building, but there aren't normal infected. They are the smart ones. And Ellie tells her about the smart ones that Dana didn't know about. And so she's telling, like, look, these are smart ones. They are not gonna just come at you like zombies. They're gonna try to sneak up on you and whatnot. And so there's that. So Ellie is being attacked by one, and she's about to be just murdered, and the infected gets shot up, and you see a hand come into frame to lift her up off the ground. And who is it? It's Jesse. Yes, Jesse has found them, and I was so relieved because I was wondering when it was going to happen, because in the game he's with him. He does meet up with him after going behind him. Also in the game, Jesse is a big part of this. Jesse, who is Joel's brother, he goes first. And how Ellie and Dana end up leaving Jackson to go to Seattle, they're going after Jesse after Jesse's wife helps Ellie and Dana leave Jackson. She leaves bags and supplies for them outside of the gates of Jackson and whatnot. And so that's why they end up leaving on the game. Here in the show, they changed it up. Jesse didn't go. So I was wondering how they were going to incorporate Jesse. How was Jesse going to play a factor this season? And sure enough, they came a day later. And so that's fine. As long as they're included, I'm fine with it. I don't know how. I didn't care how we got to that resolution, as long as we reached that resolution. And so you have that. So now Jesse, now you have the full love triangle here, between Jesse, Ellie, and Dana. It's going to be real fun when it's revealed to Jesse that Dana is pregnant. So it's business about to pick up. But that was really cool. They get separated in the wolves when they discover the scars have one of the wolves captured and strung him up, was lynching him essentially. And one of the scars had a sickle, stabs him with it, and as he stabs him with it, the other scars lift up the body, and that's how the guts spill out of the people. And they showed it in all of his graphic goodness. I I was all on board with that. But yeah, they are some brutal antagonists to deal with on this show. And so that's going to be interesting. Dana gets shot with an arrow, so Jesse takes her. Uh, uh, Ellie manages to run off. She gets into the hospital now. And this is where the discovery of the spores, she discovers the spores take place. But first, she gets into the hospital and she finds Nora. And Nora is one of those characters that you wish didn't have the luxury of getting a monologue. Just shoot her because she's an idiot. Any person with a gun point to their head and talk trash, oh yeah, Joel deserved to die. Well, of course she didn't say it in those words, but yeah, he deserved to die and stuff like that. And gave Ellie, this threw her off in enough time for Nora to distract her and run off and alert everybody in there. And this is how they find a way down into the basement, the same basement where it was sealed off because of the spores. And Ellie discovers the spores, and then she hears Nora coughing down the hall. And Nora has breathed in the spores. Now she is being infected. And so they have a back and forth. Now, I like this scene. This was cool because a lot was told in this little 2 minutes of dialogue here. It was the reveal that Ellie is immune, and Nora didn't know that. She was like, "Oh, you killed us all. You brought us down here. Now you killed us all." And Ellie's like, "No, you didn't kill me." And then it dawned on Nora, because it's known everywhere that there is an immune girl, and especially for this group who knew about Ellie and this being immune to this virus, because it was Abby's father who was doing the surgery or whatever. And so they knew of her. They didn't know who she was. So Nora, I like the performance here by the actress who plays her. That reveal, like, oh, it's you. It's you. It was like, it was horror and relief and shock all at the same time. It was just well acted at that moment. And Ellie wasn't having it. Ellie don't have time for fools. And so Taylor, I mean not Taylor, that's the actress name, but Nora, she tells Ellie, like, do you know why we killed him? Do you know why we did it? You know, Joel, he came in there and he killed everybody in that hospital, including Abby's father, who was the doctor. And Ellie just shrugged it off like, I know. And and proceeded to beat her with a pipe or whatever. And that's where the episode ends. And now my question is, I know she knows that Joel did what he did at the hospital, but do she know? No. Do she know the whole story? Because if you look at the preview for next week episode, it's insinuating that Joel told her, what happened, told her the truth. And that's why they weren't speaking at the time of his demise. Now, I'm only guessing at this point because if you followed my reviews, I'm up to the point now where I'm thinking this is where I haven't finished the game. This is where I stopped playing part 2. I've yet to go back to finish that game. And so everything pretty much after this, I'm discovering with everybody who hasn't played the game either. So I'm just jumping in jumping in feet first with everybody else here. But either way it go, it's gonna be a nice reveal whenever she does fully discover the truth. And even if she does know the truth right now, I think she's too far gone to go back, So that's where we at with at the end of episode 5. I am, like I said, I liked the episode. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the greatest. It was an all right episode. I we only have 2 more episodes left, I believe, this season. So, um, next week is I guess is mainly a flashback episode. So, uh, it's a lot to be told. I know we get into season 3, so everything doesn't have to be wrapped up this season, but it still seems a little wonky, to me right now. But I have full confidence in the writers and the showrunners of The Last of Us because they haven't let me down yet, and so I'm not worried. I'm just curious on how we're gonna wrap up this season. Like I said, it's 2 episodes left. We'll see. We'll see. And one of those episodes is a flashback episode. And next week's episode is directed by Neil Druckmann, who created the game. So I'm imagining that one's going to be good, very, very good. But as far as the story moving forward, when are we going to start ramping up, getting towards, getting closer to Abby? We didn't get to see Jeffrey Wright's character, Isaac, this episode. We did get to see Harahan, who's played by Alana Eubank. Not much. We got one little scene last week with her and this little scene this week. And you don't cast somebody like Alana Eubank just for cameos, because that's basically what she's doing, little pop-ups. So color me intrigued moving forward. But I would like to know, what did you think of episode 5 of The Last of Us? And are you excited to see Pedro Pascal return next week? I am bucked up for that episode. Super excited for that episode because I miss Joel. I miss him. But I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video as well. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this recap of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5, entitled Feel Her Love. Want you all to know that I love you. Love one another, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.